after a very successful preseason game number 3. The question that everyone is trying to answer right now is, will Minnesota Vikings quarterback Jaren Hall make the 53-man roster? You know, the hope before preseason game number 3 was that you could just slide Jaren Hall right into those DMs and send him to the practice squad without having to worry or having any concern about another team snagging him and putting him on their own roster. But after a very good performance versus the Eagles, it appears that there is concern now that another team could pluck Jaren Hall away from the Minnesota Vikings practice squad. So what do the Minnesota Vikings do? Jaren Hall was a rookie last year. He's a 5th-round selection in 2023. He got one start against the Atlanta Falcons, and he played pretty well until he got injured. He had a very nice deep ball. Was it to our running back or like to CJ Ham or something like that? To the right side of the field. I can still picture it in my head. And he drove the Minnesota Vikings down the field. He did have one major incompletion. He went 5 for 6. He had TJ Hawkinson open in the end zone, and he missed him. And then the very next play, he got hurt while he was trying to scramble over to his right and get his butt in the end zone. Then became the idea of Dobbs' sanity. So the question is Jaren Hall worth a roster spot on the Minnesota Vikings 53-man roster? Apparently, he did get a leg injury during preseason game number 3, and nobody knows the extent or the severity of the injury, so it could possibly play a role in the roster cuts. But at the end of the day, I keep on coming back to one question. Why would Jaren Hall be on the 53-man roster when it doesn't really matter? Like, is Jaren Hall going to play a pivotal role on the Minnesota Vikings roster this year if he makes the 53-man roster? Obviously, you got Sam Darnold. You probably got Nick Mullins, too. He was likely a trade candidate earlier in the preseason or right now because of J.J. McCarthy. But with J.J. McCarthy not playing all season, you kind of need Nick Mullins. But the question is Jaren Hall just as good as Nick Mullins? And I would argue no. I would argue probably not. Nick Mullins has the experience. Sure, he likes to throw an interception here or there. He's very aggressive on the field. But it does move the ball, and he does throw for lots of yards. He does give receivers a chance to make a play. And head-to-head, it's got to be Nick Mullins over Jaren Hall. So why would you keep 3 quarterbacks on your roster? Do you risk losing Jaren Hall and try to place him on your practice squad? And my answer is yes. Yes. What is Jaren Hall going to do for the Minnesota Vikings long-term this season? If Sam Darnold is playing poorly, then you insert Nick Mullins, but you don't insert Jaren Hall. If Sam Darnold gets hurt and then Nick Mullins gets hurt, well, the season's over anyways. You insert Jaren Hall, it won't matter. If Sam Darnold gets hurt, season's over. It doesn't even matter. It's like, regardless of the situation or circumstance, the Minnesota Vikings season does not hinge on Jaren Hall getting snaps for the Minnesota Vikings during the regular season. It's not going to matter. If Jaren Hall is in for the Minnesota Vikings during the regular season, then it is an absolute crap show season for the Minnesota Vikings. And you're just trying to get out alive, just like it was last season. It became a crap show when Kirk Cousins got hurt, because then Jaren Hall got hurt. Then Dobbs wasn't playing well. Then Nick Mullins went into the game and threw a bunch of picks. When QB1 goes down for an extended period of time, like Kirk Cousins did last year, and you don't have a quality backup, I mean, we had okay quality backups, but you think about quality backups around the NFL, at least historically, Ryan Fitzpatrick was a quality backup. He's a guy that could come in and move the chains. Alex Smith, during times of his career, was a quality backup quarterback. You think about Mac Jones for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a quality backup quarterback. The Minnesota Vikings, there's no quality backup quarterbacks on their roster. If quarterback one goes down, the season's over, and the Minnesota Vikings have no chance at long-term success that season. They have no chance at sustaining any success that they've had whatsoever. So I get the questions, is Jaren Hall going to make the roster? I'm old enough to remember last year when everyone was talking about, free Jaren Hall, free him, like he's going to come out and become this Hall of Fame quarterback. Free Jaren Hall. It's like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. Oh, man. I was part of the free Tyus Jones bandwagon for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And now he's going to be a starting point guard on the Phoenix Suns with Durant and Booker and Bradley Beal. So I think that one made sense. But the free Jaren Hall, never quite understood it. Is he going to make the 53-man roster? He might. But if I was the decision maker, which I'm not, I would say no. He is a cut. Even though he looked decent during the Philadelphia Eagles preseason game number 3 versus third stringers, I don't think it's worth it to have 3 quarterbacks on a roster. And I think the NFL rules have changed where, you know, you can have 3 quarterbacks, but it won't take up a roster spot or something like that. I don't quite get it, but I still don't think it's worth it. There's other spots that you can give other people for Jaren Hall's spot.